Well, hello and welcome to I Love Gay today. And we are here with my friend, repeat guest, Brad Fuhr from KGAY 106.5 in Palm Springs. How are you?
I'm doing well. We're basking in the sunshine of the New York Times article, and yet it's been a little cloudy, rainy, and cold out here.
Oh, I know. There's a lot going on. I mean, you guys been in the news outside of this New York Times article. You've been in the news because, I mean, you've just been inundated with rain over the last few days.
We have much less so than our friends on the coast, luckily.
Thank goodness. But the exciting part and the reason we're even here today is that I think we all have a reason to celebrate when one of our own is featured in something like the Wall Street Journal, Washington Post, or in your case, the New York Times. And but yeah, they came out, wrote a fantastic article about KGAY and you and all the things you've put together.
Well, we were very excited to get the coverage in the New York Times. The writer came out basically right around Christmas time. He had researched Gay Desert Guide and what to do in Palm Springs and KGAY. He basically came across us accidentally. He was coming out first time to ever be in Palm Springs, coming out with his best friend's parents, and they were going to spend the holidays in Palm Springs. He's
Oh
like,
wow.
"Well, what is there to do in Palm Springs?"
Yeah.
And he kept coming across Gay Desert Guide and KGAY. And so he emailed me and said, this is really interesting. I think it would make a good article for the New York Times. And he didn't have a New York Times email address, so I'm like, well, maybe this is real, maybe it's not. But come to find out, obviously, when I did my research, he was real and a great LGBTQ ally and an editor for the New York Times. And so he was able to come out here. First thing he came to was a remote broadcast we were doing at the Living Desert Zoo
Okay.
and Gardens right around the holidays.
Yeah.
DJ Mod Girl was out there. John Taylor was doing a live broadcast. And then he came in on our morning show just before Christmas. We had a really fun show that day with local Devin and Ned. You may know Devin as America's favorite Christian, Betty Bowers,
Okay.
the YouTube sensation.
Yeah.
And anyway, so he was in, and then he spent about 2 hours talking to John Taylor, our morning host, Chris Schiebel, and I. And we got deeply into the history of how we had been in radio. In the early days, we were closeted. We couldn't be out, couldn't be who we were. And we certainly couldn't program a radio station like KGAY. And so here we are all these years later. We are in our element here in Palm Springs. We are able to be who we are truly authentically are. And we're able to give voice to the LGBTQ plus community through KGAY and Gay Desert Guide.
Yeah. And it was a really good article. I thought it did a very good job of kind of capturing the essence of Palm Springs and you and your team and what you guys have created. The one part that stood out to me though is that he really starts out at the very beginning, just really focusing on the fact that yeah, that this really seems to work uniquely in Palm Springs because of the age demographic that it skews like older. And it's interesting because I think that's always been Palm Springs over the many years, but things have really changed recently. I think kind of post pandemic as far as that demographic.
Well, that's true. It's almost like our Achilles heel, right? We get pegged into this, we're a much older demographic. And, we talked about the that during pandemic, so many young people kept coming out to Palm Springs. Some moved here. Many have stayed permanently. So we've got some demographic, I guess, more diversity in demographics than the article might lead you to believe. Many of those people have stayed. I see young entrepreneurs coming into the market, doing new businesses or just working remotely.
Yeah, that's the whole thing is that I think a big shift happened during just anecdotally. So many people I knew from LA, San Francisco, they always said, "Oh, I'll retire to Palm Springs someday." And the pandemic sort of accelerated that. They moved to Palm Springs temporarily, and then with remote work, it turns out many of them stayed. So I think that by itself really helped to bring the average age and demographic down.
Not only that, but we are also seeing somewhat of a shift outside of Palm Springs. Palm Springs has gotten expensive, and
Yeah.
so places like Cathedral City, Desert Hot Springs have become more affordable, and we're seeing some people go to there. But we're also seeing a demographic shift to Rancho Mirage and Palm Desert. It used to be that the joke was if you wanted to go to the McCallum Theater in Palm Desert, you needed to have your passport stamped because it was so far away. That's not the case now. People live out through the entire valley. The LGBTQ Center now has an East Valley location in Indio because they're serving Hispanic population down there, et cetera.
Also, I think even anecdotally, I recall that West Hollywood used to always have so many gays from the Inland Empire. They'd come out from Rancho Cucamonga, Riverside, and they'd be in West Hollywood. But I started to see a shift when I was coming to Palm Springs that I noticed that more and more of the Inland Empire folks and all those folks in between Los Angeles and Palm Springs started to kind of go more towards Palm Springs and the expanding nightlife they had there. And I guess it was new opportunities.
I think that's true. We're seeing many people will come in just for the afternoon or the day. They'll go to a pool party at one of their gay resorts, for example, and then maybe go out for the evening and then either drive home, or many times they will stay here as well. So there is that shift. I think it's certainly the traffic situation. It's much easier to get back and forth between the Inland Empire and Palm Springs, or even San Diego and Palm Springs, than going all the way to LA or West Hollywood.
I thought it was also interesting, though, they kind of put this strong emphasis on the audience having nostalgia for music and radio from a certain era and so forth, but also kind of outside of what we were talking about, when you think about that and then realize you're reaching people definitely way out of Palm Springs because of the fact that you guys are available streaming, and I could just tell my Alexa to put on KGAY 106.5, and so that's a big part of your audience too. Yes.
It is. In fact, Eric does talk about that in the article that he, looked at our map that we have here in the studio, and we can see people listening all over the world. And so that creates, it creates opportunity for us. Obviously, when you have listeners all over the world, many of those listeners have a propensity to come to Palm Springs. They're not listening just for the music, but they're also listening for the experience of what do we do here in Palm Springs? What's it all about, Alfie? And how if I'm going to visit Palm Springs, what might I do? What might I experience? So I think we get a lot of people that listen around the world for that experience because they can get the music anywhere. Yeah. It's what we do in between the records. It's the special mix shows that we do when we really into the community, and it gives everyone a real sense of belonging, even if they're not here in Palm Springs.
I thought it was really good too, because they definitely made that closing point to make sure everybody knows. I mean, this KGAY, it doesn't exist by itself in a bubble. You've been doing this for a long time, but it's part of this kind of multimedia. You use the word empire. I like that. And but this multimedia company you've put together that really has touch points, print, online, and now with radio. But you kind of bring all those together very cleanly, and I think that's a very unique aspect of kind of the work you do.
Yeah, I think so. And I think Eric probably first came across this if he did Google searches, because Gay Desert Guide information, indexes so well. We've been around for 11 years now. And thanks to, the work I've done with you and with the Bureau of Tourism and other places, a lot of our content is out there. And so, that certainly helps people discover the KGAY brand. And then they have a chance to listen and hear what everything's about. And, we do I think, a great job of cross-promoting between the website and the on-air product, so people do have a chance to find out what's going on and what to do when they do decide to come to Palm Springs.
Yeah. Well, I love that you get outside of Palm Springs. You and I were last together when we were at Puerto Rico together for the IGLTA convention, but you had the entire entourage from Palm Springs was there with you as well,
including our mayor at the time, Grace Garner, and our next mayor, Jeffrey Bernstein, is in office now. And then in a year or so, when the IGLTA conference comes to Palm Springs, the man who runs Palm Springs Pride, Ron DeHart, will be our mayor. And so we are really looking forward to bringing in this entire group of people that have such an influence on LGBT travel from around the world, having them come to Palm Springs and see what we have to offer.
And we shouldn't talk IGLTA without make sure we don't leave out the NGLCC is coming this year, and that's a huge LGBT business for those that don't know, and that's going to be huge this year.
We are really excited to have two conferences 2 years in a row that will really help put Palm Springs on the map. Not that it isn't on the map already, of course.
Yeah, it'll put it on even stronger. So I love all this, and I very much look forward to my next trip out when we get to hang out in the real world, and I get to relive and find out some of the new places, because it seems like Palm Springs is changing all the time.
New things coming on board, a Thompson Hotel, some small boutique hotels, a lot of new restaurants that I'll take you to when you come out here. And, just thank you for the opportunity to talk about, what we're doing and what this is all about. And, we were so proud to get mentioned in the New York Times. I've gotten so many comments from friends and coworkers and people we've been associated with over the year. And, we take our commitment seriously to not only entertaining, but also to informing and making people think about what's happening in the world from our perspective here in Palm Springs.
Fantastic. Well, thanks so much for being here with me, and look forward to seeing you soon.
Thanks very much, Pat.